Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 77 based on novel. So let's start. Vast and mighty Yuan power swept across the heavens like an endless ocean. Lindong stood in the air while accompanied by wind and lightning. Those pitch-black eyes of his contained a frightening sharpness as he stared at the seventh seat king to his front. Monstrous demonic chi was surging around the latter's body. The seventh seat king had an exceptional senses. He discerned Lindong's current strength with a single glance of the latter's aura. Surprise quickly flashed across his eyes. How did this brat cultivate so quickly? It had only been a couple of months since he last saw the latter, yet the latter had actually advanced from the samsara stage to the reincarnation stage. I was wondering why you had the courage to fight with me. It turns out that you have actually advanced into the reincarnation stage. Surprise flashed across the eyes of the seventh seat king before he laughed coldly and said. Lindong parted his lips into a smile when he heard this. However, his smile appeared quite ferocious. He did not reply, but merely slowly clenched his hands. Bright purple gold light erupted from inside and his body, seemingly causing his body to bulk up in size. Roar! A dragon roar reverberated across in the area. 10,000 purple gold dragon tattoos circulated around Lindong's body. As they swirled around his body, their frightening power seemed to shake the land. After Lindong truly advanced into the reincarnation stage, he achieved complete mastery in the green heaven materialized dragon skill. Even if Qingji was present, he could only nod his head in admiration in the face of such mastery. Lindong's body slowly swelled. His skin took on a shade of purple-gold color as purple-gold scales emerged. At this moment, his physical body was approaching the strength of the Chaos Master. Lindong extended his hand and suddenly clenched it. 10,000 purple-gold dragon tattoos agglomerated in his hand. Subsequently, purple-gold light blossomed and it turned into a purple-gold dragon spear that was 12 feet long. The dragon spear was covered in scales, and there was a huge dragon mouth at its tip. Sharp dragon teeth from its mouth. Cold light flowed on the spear, and its sharpness was enough to tear space itself apart. Lindong stood in the air. He held the purple-gold dragon spear in his hand as he felt the seemingly endless strength within his body. After which, he involuntarily let out a long howl towards the sky. Thunder rumbled within the howl. This was the first time he had brought out his full power ever since he had advanced to the reincarnation stage. With this overflowing strength, it was as though he could even shatter the sky with his fist. Lindong's purple-gold suffused eyes were filled with yearning to do battle. He stared at the seventh seat king in an excited manner. What he desired now was a hearty battle. Humph! The seventh seat king let out a cold snort when he saw Lindong soaring battle intent. His hands slowly lowered as demonic chi surged from his palms. His arms gradually lengthened a little and became pitch-black like metal. His nails were now 3 feet long and appeared akin to sharp swords. Ear-piercing screeching sounds could be heard when his nails gently rubbed against each other. You will need to experience 2 reincarnation tribulation to fight this seated king. A cold glint flashed across the eyes of the seventh seat king. His body moved and he appeared behind Lindong in a ghost-like fashion. Those sharp nails tore through the air with lightning speed. They ruthlessly pierced towards Lindong's back with indescribable speed and viciousness. The sharp nails accompanied by the demonic chi penetrated through Lindong's body. However, no blood flowed out. Instead, the figure began to gradually fade away. The eyes of the seventh seat king narrowed slightly after his attack missed. He suddenly turned his body as sharp nails thrust forward like a sword. The purple-gold dragon spear was accompanied by a majestic strength as clashed head-on against the sharp nails. An energy ripple that was visible to the naked eye spread, causing the surrounding space to be shaken until it distorted. Dragon spear in hand, the dragon scales on the surface of Lindong's skin flickered with a dazzling luster. His eyes were icy as he stared at the seventh seat king. After which, his arm jerked and brilliance exploded from the dragon spear. The dragon spear turned into countless spear shadows that crazily thrust at the seventh seat king. Every one of these spear shadows possessed a frightening power that could kill a Samsara stage expert. The seventh Seat King watched the wild and violent spear shadows head towards him from all directions. Demonic chi burst out from his body and the sinister Devil Emperor armor was revealed. The wild and violent spear shadows ruthlessly landed on the Devil Emperor armor, sending the seventh Seat King flying backwards. Faint scars surfaced on the Devil Emperor armor. "You have indeed become a lot stronger." The seventh Seat King frowned slightly when he saw the scars on the Devil Emperor armor. During the last encounter, Lindong had only able to damage the Devil Emperor armor after using his strongest trump card. Now, Lindong attacks were able to penetrate the Devil Emperor armor and slightly impact his body. Nevertheless, such injuries were nothing to him. Lindong did not show any signs of replying. Silver light flashed on his body and he directly appeared above the seventh Seat King. The dragon spear in his hand mercilessly pierced towards the top of the seventh Seat King's head. A pitch-black arm covered by the Devil Emperor armor suddenly reached upwards. Like a shield, it blocked the dragon's spear. However, the frightening strength that surged from the latter caused the seventh Seat King's body to fall slightly. Humph! A cold glint flashed across the eyes of the seventh Seat King. His sharp demonic sword-like nails drew a tricky arc as they took the opportunity to slash across Lindong's chest. Scree! Sparks erupted as the nails cut across the dragon scales, leaving behind a long bloody wound on Lindong's chest. Fresh blood flowed from this wound. The pain in his chest did not cause Lindong's expression to change at all. Instead, a bloodthirsty glint flickered in his pitch-black eyes. Subsequently, his hand slid down along the dragon spear. A strange glow flickered on his arms as they turned into a liquid-like state. Ancient symbols seemed to be floating within the liquid-like arms as a mysterious strength spread. The eyes of the seventh Seat King flashed when he saw the liquid arms of Lindong, which were permeated with the power of the ancestral symbols. With a jolt, his body turned into black smoke and rapidly pulled back. The seventh Seat King knew how formidable the power of the ancestral symbols were, and his naturally would not be foolish enough to allow Lindong to successfully hit him. "Can you really avoid this?" However, the corners of Lindong's mouth merely lifted to form a cold smile when he saw the seventh Seat King attempts to dodge. Silver light suddenly flashed and both of his arms seemed to reach into space and strangely disappear. The seventh Seat King's pupils shrunk when he saw Lindong's arms disappear. However, before he could react, he saw the space in front of him split apart in a mysterious manner. Two liquid palms extended from within at lightning speed and heavily slammed into his chest. Bang! A deep muffled thud emerged and the body of the seventh Seat King flew backwards. The demonic chi within his body surged chaotically. Two half-finger deep palm prints could be seen on the Devil Emperor armor over his chest. Spatial ancestral symbol. The seventh Seat King cried out sharply as his expression changed after receiving the strange attack. "Congratulations, you are correct." A cold glint flashed within Lindong's eyes. His attacks were completely merciless. The ancestral symbol hands were violently swung and directly penetrated through space. After which, they mysteriously appeared around the seventh Seat King. The attacks were completely unpredictable, making it impossible to defend. Even the seventh Seat King was caught off guard in the face of such strange attacks. He managed to block the attacks that descended from all directions by relying on the strong defensive power of the Devil Emperor armor. The island below had also descended into an intense battle. However, many people were secretly focused on the fight above. They understood that those two were the ones who would ultimately decide the result of this battle. They felt both happy and quietly shocked when they saw Lindong force the seventh Seat King into a disadvantageous situation. They were naturally able to sense the strength of the seventh Seat King. His strength was not something that an ordinary reincarnation stage expert could match. It was unexpected that Lindong actually possessed the ability to fight the latter. Who would have imagined that the young man, who had merely represented the GU clan in battle back then, would actually become so abnormally strong within a short couple of years? Bang! Another ancestral symbol fist penetrated space and ruthlessly smashed onto the body of the seventh Seat King. The frightening power directly forced the latter to take dozens of steps back, and even the area where the latter's feet landed was slightly shaken. The seventh seat king heavily stomped his foot and forcefully stabilized his body. He looked at the fist imprints on the Devil Emperor armor. The fury that was originally on his face had diminished at this moment. As expected of someone who possesses 3 ancestral symbols. The seventh seat king lifted his head and deeply inhaled a breath of air. Those demonic eyes gradually became indifferent. However, Lindong could detect an extremely violent emotion surging under this indifference. It was obvious that the seventh seat king had truly been angered after being violently beaten by Lindong. Although I really hate you. I truly do not have the time to play with trash like you now. Ruthlessness finally surged within the seventh seat king's eyes. After which, he took a step forward as frightening demonic chi swept forth. The entire place began to tremble. The seventh seat king glared at Lindong as both of his hands suddenly formed many strange seals. Soon after, a mouthful of blood was spat out from his mouth. Black blood squirmed and wiggled as it turned into a black skull seal. The skull gave off an evil ripple that made one shudder. Such evilness had even surpassed that of the seventh seat king himself. Roar! The countless Yimmo below suddenly roared towards the sky after this extremely evil ripple emerged. Their roars contained an almost zealot-like craziness. Some of the Yimmo directly knelt down and worshipped the skull seal. There was a slight change in the expression within Lindong's eyes when he saw this. The seventh seat king smiled ferociously at Lindong and said, "Originally, I was planning on using this to deal with the Chaos Master. However, since you are so anxious to die, I will first finish you off." The seventh seat king formed a seal with his hands and grasped the skull seal within his hands. After which, his body also slowly knelt down. Waves of viscous demonic chi overflowed from within his body. Finally, it turned into a 10,000 feet large blurry figure above his head. The surrounding Yuan power began to flee the moment this black figure appeared. Viscous demonic chi spread as a hoarse voice was slowly emitted from the seventh seat king's mouth. "Yimmo Emperor, descend." It was as if dusk had suddenly descended upon the land. Even the bright sun in the sky seemed to tremble at this moment as it hid behind the clouds in fear. Endless demonic chi swept across the sky. This entire land seemed to tremble under the huge devil-like figure. Flying fish vanished from the surface of the sea and even the sea winds had fallen silent. The terrible fight on the island also came to a strange stop at this very moment. Countless gazes lifted in horror as they looked upon the devil-like figure. Indescribable fear crawled out from the depths of their hearts like vines, causing their faces to turn deathly pale with fear. The devil-like figure was akin to an emperor from another world. It descended in a barbaric fashion, and no one in this world could stop it. Yimmo Emperor. Lindong was also shocked as he looked at the devil-like figure. Could this be the Yimmo Emperor whom only the legendary symbol ancestor could match? It is merely an Yimmo Emperor phantasm. The Yimmo Emperor from back then had been forced out of the crack between the planes by my master and sealed away together with the crack. How could this fellow possibly summon him? Within the skull seal was a thread of the Yimmo Emperor's hair. Yang's voice sounded. "Yimmo Emperor phantasm." Lindong was initially startled. Soon after, he inhaled a breath of cool air in his heart. Just a thread of hair possessed such a presence? Just how frightening was the Yimmo Emperor's true body? TSK, Lindong, it is time for you to die. Under the Yimmo Emperor phantasm, the seventh seat king's eyes were ferocious. He gave Lindong a sinister smile and the seal formed by his hands abruptly changed. Bang! The moment his hand seal changed, the Yimmo Emperor phantasm slowly lifting its hand and lightly swatted at Lindong. The Yimmo Emperor hand did not possess any shocking energy ripples as it swatted towards Lindong. However, the latter felt mortal danger. Just as he was about to dodge, he was horrified to discover that the area around him seemed to have locked, making it impossible to move. God damn it! Lindong cursed. Soon after, his originally pitch-black eyes suddenly turned bright silver. Silver light frantically surged from within his body as he pushed his spatial power to the limit. The demonic hand lightly swatted past. Space itself seemed to be swatted into nothingness wherever it passed. Soon after, the demonic hand landed on Lindong's body under the vicious gaze of the seventh seat king. The demonic hand drifted past. The spot where Lindong was standing earlier was now empty. This caused the countless experts below to experience a change in expression. Could it be that Lindong had been swatted into nothingness? Spatial ancestral symbol Her. It is indeed a little troublesome. The seventh seat king frowned when he saw this. Soon after, he looked into the distance in a dark and cold manner where space was distorting, and Lindong's figure strangely appeared. However, there was now some cold sweat on his forehead. If he was a little slower, it was likely that he would have been struck. Although being struck would not kill him, it would definitely result in grave injuries. I will not allow you to escape again. The seventh seat king chuckled coldly. The seal formed by his hands changed, and the Yimmo Emperor Fantasm once again lifted its hand. The hand of darkness appeared to be able to wrap around the sun and moon as it began to smash towards Lindong in an overwhelming manner. Roar! A fierce glint was burst from Lindong's eyes when he saw this, and he let loose a long dragon-like roar. Countless purple-gold dragon tattoos swept out in all directions. The purple-gold dragon tattoos continuously gathered together. Lindong had evidently unleashed the Yuan power in his body to the limit. In the blink of an eye, a frightening number of 15,000 purple-gold dragon tattoos had appeared. The 15,000 dragon tattoos entwined around him. The dragon tattoos roared in unison, releasing a terrifying aura. Bang! Lindong's expression was ice-cold. The purple-gold dragon spear flew out of his hand and 15,000 purple-gold dragon tattoos followed behind. In the end, they charged towards the Yimmo Emperor Phantasm's giant hand. Ha ha, how you dare to resist in front of the Emperor. You really overestimate yourself. The seventh seat king laughed out loud towards the sky upon seeing this. The Yimmo Emperor Phantasm's giant hand clashed with the 10,000 purple gold dragons as he laughed. No loud sound appeared from the clash. The giant hand merely paused for a split second in the face of this hindrance, before the countless purple gold dragon tattoos turned to dust and disappeared. To think that this Yimmo Emperor Phantasm had reached such a terrifying level. On the Gu clan battle area within the island, horror filled the pretty faces of Gu Mengqi and Gu Yang upon seeing this scene. Soon after, they tightly clenched their hands as they watched that thin figure. In the sky, Lindong's expression became extremely grave when he saw the fruitlessness of even such a powerful attack. In the next instant, he deeply breathed in. His slender hand extended and lightning began to flicker. Lightning flowed out and a lightning bow that was filled with power in a flash. Lindong pulled with his finger and a black arrow stealthily took shape. The seventh seat king's pupils shrunk slightly after seeing that Lindong had finally taken out this lightning bow and black arrow which had seriously injured him back then. Soon after, however, he laughed coldly. He did not believe that Lindong would be able to break the Yimmo Emperor Phantasm. I will let you understand true despair and horror. The seventh seat king eerily stared at Lindong with ferociously chilling eyes. Lindong ignored his gaze. The bow turned into a full moon as the black arrow gently trembled. After which, the light of primal chaos surged from that mysterious place and covered the black arrow. The vast Yuan power around him suddenly disappeared at this moment. He was now just like an ordinary person. Despite his ordinary appearance, however, everyone on the island could vaguely feel the monstrous waves churning under that calm and plain surface. Such power would surely cause even the land to tremble. Everyone's hands suddenly clenched tightly. All of them could feel the power of Lindong's attack. However, was it really possible to deal with that indescribably terrifying Yimmo Emperor Phantasm? If Lindong was defeated, the morale of the countless experts on the island would decline, and they would have difficulty stopping the Yimmo assault. At that time, it would truly turn into a bloodbath. A breath of white vapor was gently exhaled from Lindong's mouth, as a brilliant light suddenly flitted across those black eyes of his. The light appeared as bright and dazzling as the scorching sun. Lindong suddenly released his finger, which was holding tightly onto the bowstring. The black arrow did not create any frightening energy ripples when it shot forward. However, its speed was indescribably fast. Everyone could only see a flash of black light. Next, they saw the black arrow powerfully strike the giant hand of the Yimmo Emperor Fantasm. The world seemed to freeze at this moment. The black arrow and giant hand were in a deadlock. This time around, however, the Yimmo Emperor's giant hand was no longer able to break through in an easy fashion. The black arrow shook violently as if there was an invisible and frightening strength that completely blocked the terrifying power from the Yimmo Emperor's giant hand. There was neither a magnificent explosion, nor a frightening energy shockwave. However, everyone could sense the terror hidden under this face-off. The seventh Seat King firmly stared at the two clashing forces. He suddenly gritted his teeth and a fierce expression flashed across his eyes. Soon after, he slammed his hand heavily onto his chest. Thick and somewhat black crystal-like blood was spat out and shot into the Yimmo Emperor Phantasm. The Yimmo Emperor Phantasm seemed to become a little clearer as the black essence blood entered it, and a faint red glow seemed to surface in those blurry eyes of it. "Break it!" The seventh Seat King sternly shouted with a twisted expression. Bang! The giant Yimmo Emperor hand suddenly clenched after his cry sounded and faint cracks abruptly emerged on the black arrow. Finally, it was completely shattered under the giant Yimmo Emperor hand. The expressions of the countless individuals below turned deathly white when the black arrow was shattered. Were they still going to lose in the end? Lindong also spat out a mouthful of blood when the black arrow was destroyed as his body staggered a dozen steps backwards. It was clear that he had also been affected. Ha ha! The seventh Seat King let out a loud and piercing laughter upon seeing this. His scattered long hair appeared exceptionally frightening. He looked at Lindong and said with a ferocious smile, "Your strongest attack has failed. What else can you do?" However, Lindong merely silently wiped away the blood at the corner of his lips in response to the seventh Seat King's ferocious and loud laughter. He slowly lifted his head and looked at the seventh Seat King and chuckled. Such power is still not enough. Lindong's laughter faded as he once again slowly pulled the lightning bow. Fresh blood dripped down the bowstring. Black light ultimately gathered again. The color of the black arrow seemed to be even deeper than before. Are you still not going to give up? It seems that you do not have any other tricks left. The seventh Seat King mocked upon seeing Lindong pull the bowstring again. Lindong ignored his ridicule. His eyes slowly shut and his mind entered the deepest part of his heart. That feeling, he needed it to be clearer. That mysterious power was still insufficient. Come out. A seemingly deep mumble quietly spread within Lindong's heart, while his mind stealthily drifted within the area. Zenith sensing art, just where was it? Lindong's consciousness dispersed. Without realizing it, his mind had become blurry. However, his heart was as clear as a mirror amidst his blurry thoughts, while an indescribable feeling stealthily spread. Lindong's consciousness suddenly barged into a domain of primal chaos. It felt just like a fetus in its mother's womb, leaving one so intoxicated that it made one unwilling to awake. However, the powerful will within his body forcefully extracted his consciousness from its intoxicated state. It was as though a voice was emitted from his consciousness and ultimately entered that primal chaos. Give me your power. A deep roar seemed to echo within the primal chaos as Lindong's consciousness swiftly disappeared. Lindong suddenly opened his tightly shut eyes. A flash of primal chaos light flitted in the depths of his black eyes. It was as if a strand of primal chaos light that no one could see had shined on the black arrow. After which, the color of the black arrow gradually changed and it ultimately turned into an arrow of primal chaos. A grin slowly formed from the corners of Lindong's lips. After which, he smiled towards the seventh Seat King and suddenly released the bowstring held in his fingers. The primal chaos arrow was accompanied by that mysterious power as it once again shot across the sky under the attention of countless taunt gazes. A streak of primal chaos flashed across the horizon. That momentary brilliance was akin to the light that was born when the world was formed. It gave off the feeling of the ultimate mystery. While the arrow wrapped by the light of primal chaos shot out, the seventh Seat King's pupils abruptly tightened. In the next instant, ruthlessness surged out from his eyes. Die for this seated king. The seventh-seat king's expression was twisted. His hands came together and drew several strange seals as a piercing cry rang out. Armageddon hand. In the sky, the red light in the eyes of the Yimmo Emperor Fantasm quietly blossomed. Subsequently, the Yimmo Emperor's titanic hand turned a little more corporeal. Seemingly evil to the extreme, demonic chi surged within its palm. Just a touch of this demonic chi was enough to destroy a reincarnation stage expert. The Yimmo Emperor hand reached forward and the sky crumbled. In the next instant, the evil to the extreme hand had already collided against the unremarkable primal chaos arrow under countless super tense gazes. A strange buzzing sound spread in the sky at this moment. Energy ripples that were visible to the naked eye continuously pulsated outwards and ended up almost covering the entire sky. At the epicenter, the Yimmo Emperor hand and the arrow were tightly locked together. However, the primal chaos arrow was completely still, and not even the slightest tremble could be seen. Roar? The ferocity in the seventh-seat king's eyes intensified as he watched this scene, and a roar emerged from his throat. Subsequently, an ominous light flickered within his eyes as numerous closely packed cracks appeared on his arm. Fresh black blood flowed unceasingly from the cracks and covered the entire arm in the blink of an eye. Aren't you afraid of playing to the death in the clash with this seated king? The seventh-seat king viciously smiled at Lindong with a warped expression. In the next instant, his cracked arm suddenly exploded. Fresh black blood along with several black crystals swept out and charged into the giant Yimmo Emperor hand that was facing the primal chaos arrow. As the fresh blood flowed in, the Yimmo Emperor hand turned substantially corporeal. So much so that even the bizarre otherworldly symbols on the giant hand were faintly discernible. The complexions of the countless experts on the island below instantly paled even further when they saw this scene. This seventh-seat king was so vicious. He could sacrifice even an arm for the sake of killing Lindong. Was the arrow condensed by Lindong's strongest power going to be defeated this time? Ji Yumenchi and the rest tightly clenched their fists as anxiousness and worry filled their eyes. If Lindong was defeated again, the morale on the island would plummet. Lindong, you can do it, Ji Yu Yang tightened her tiny fists as she mumbled. Creek star. The giant Yimmo Emperor hand slowly grabbed downwards, and the primal chaos arrow faintly trembled. A shadow quietly descended as if that Yimmo Emperor was reaching out with its hand of ruination. However, Lindong's expression gradually turned peaceful in response to this turn of events. In the next moment, he deeply breathed in as he softly muttered, Zenith, destroy the devil. The primal chaos arrow suddenly jerked and the light of primal chaos exploded. Under the explosion of this radiance, the slowly descending Yimmo Emperor hand was forcibly stopped, causing it to no longer be able to close. The seventh-seat king's expression abruptly changed when the Yimmo Emperor hand was stopped. Unease suddenly surged in his heart as he gazed upon the primal chaos arrow that was as steady as a mountain within the Yimmo Emperor hand. This arrow seemed to be somewhat different than before. Yi? While unease surged in the seventh-seat king's heart, a clear sound suddenly erupted from the primal chaos arrow that had been suppressed by the Yimmo Emperor hand since the beginning. All of the spreading primal chaos light suddenly pulled back into the arrow. The primal chaos arrow turned crystal-like at this moment as a mysterious yet simple power spread. This power was completely opposite to the evilness from the Yimmo Emperor hand, but it gave off an aura of invincibility. The tail of the arrow shook madly. Soon after, a strange light seemed to surface at the arrow tip and the arrow violently shot forth with a jerk. A magnificent radiance unfurled. Overflowing Yimmo chi burst out from the Yimmo Emperor hand in an attempt to stop the sudden explosion of power from the arrow. However, it was as if the arrow had the aid of the gods, and the primal chaos light forcibly ripped apart the layers of almost solid-like Yimmo chi. Under the attention of countless astonished gazes, the arrow barbarically pierced the Yimmo Emperor hand and ultimately penetrated the Yimmo Emperor head like hot knife through butter. The arrow shot out from the Yimmo Emperor head and dashed towards the heavens. The light following it gave off an incomparably proud aura akin to a giant dragon. Bang bang bang. A series of explosions rang out from within the Yimmo Emperor Phantasm's body. Subsequently, that enormous body exploded under the countless shocked gazes. The seventh-seat king blankly gazed at the exploding Yimmo Emperor Fantasm as the skull seal in his hand also cracked and exploded. The strand of black hair within it started to burn without fire and quietly turned into ash that drifted away. A mouthful of thick black blood directly spurted from the seventh-seat king's mouth. To think that the Yimmo Emperor Fantasm was actually destroyed by Lindong. While his body trembled, there was a faint trace of terror in his gaze as he looked towards the distant, somewhat pale face of Lindong, who was holding the lightning bow. This had evidently exceeded the seventh-seat king's expectations. On the island, the countless experts were first stunned when they saw this. Soon after, earth-shaking cheers erupted. When the terrifying Yimmo Emperor Fantasm was destroyed, the frightening pressure also faded. For a time, the morale on the island soared. Gu Mengqi and Gu Yang exchanged a look and saw the intense joy and surprise in each other's eyes. In the sky, the lightning bow in Lindong's hand slowly faded as he listened to the earth-shattering cheers from below. It was fortunate that he had advanced to the reincarnation stage. Or else, it would be very difficult to endure the frightening energy expenditure even with the full recovery powers of the devouring ancestral symbol. What else do you have left now? Lindong's ferocious gaze focused on the seventh-seat king. The latter's complexion was deathly pale and the demonic chi around his body was in disorder. It was obvious that he had suffered extremely serious injuries. This was the best opportunity to beat an enemy while he was down. The seventh-seat king's pupils contracted a little when he saw Lindong's gaze, and he secretly clenched his teeth. This brat would become even more difficult to deal with at every encounter. If the Yimmo Emperor Phantasm had not stopped the earlier arrow, he would be in an extremely dire state. Boom! While the seventh-seat king's gaze turned grim, 10,000 purple gold rays of light once again shot out from around Lindong's body, as dragon roars filled the sky. Space distorted as his body moved, and he appeared in front of the seventh-seat king. Without any mercy, fists containing mountain-destroying power viciously slammed into the seventh-seat king's body. Bang bang bang. The gravely injured seventh-seat king's aura was unsteady. Demonic chi circulated, but the numerous defenses formed were directly blasted apart by Lindong's barbaric attacks. Like a giant purple gold soaring dragon, Lindong's fist slammed into the seventh-seat king's body. Terrifying power exploded, and the seventh-seat king's body was immediately sent flying. Fresh black blood continuously spouted from where his arm had been lost, while deep fist imprints could be seen on the extremely dim Devil Emperor armor on his body. The current seventh-seat king seemed to have lost all ability to retaliate. He spit out a mouthful of black blood and stared at Lindong with a twisted face. The bitter resentment in the seventh-seat king's eyes seemed to be about to incinerate the latter. Go accompany the ninth-seat king. Lindong gave the seventh-seat king a sinister smile. His body once again appeared in front of the latter, and with a clench of his fist, 10,000 purple gold giant dragons gathered together to form a dragon spear once again. Next, the spear ruthlessly thrust towards the seventh-seat king's throat. So it is you who killed the ninth-seat king? Upon hearing these words, the seventh-seat king's expression instantly changed. Lindong ignored the seventh-seat king. With a sinister expression in his eyes, the dragon spear rapidly approached the seventh-seat king. However, just as the dragon spear was about to reach, Lindong saw a strange smile appear on the seventh-seat king's face. You brat, you really are hard to deal with. However, my mission can reluctantly be considered complete if you are killed. The seventh-seat king extended his soul arm and steadily grabbed the dragon spear. This terrifying power betrayed his previously weak appearance. Lindong's pupils shrunk when he saw this bizarre change as unease suddenly rose in his heart. Silver light flashed on his body as he attempted to retreat. Trying to leave. The seventh-seat king grinned upon seeing this. His body squirmed and wiggled as two arms forcibly emerged. These two hands formed a strange seal, and viscous demonic chi surged and blasted Lindong's chest like a bolt of lightning. Bang! Even the sky shook for a moment when the demonic chi surged. Subsequently, the crowd watched in horror as the previously advantageous Lindong was suddenly sent flying backwards as he spit out blood. His chest had even caved in a little, and it was clear that he had suffered an extremely grave injury. A mouthful of fresh blood was spit out from Lindong's mouth. He hastily steadied his body as he cold gaze looked towards the squirming body of the seventh seat king. There seemed to be something hidden within his body. What a strong physical body. To think that you are still alive even after a combined blow from the three of us. The seventh seat king's body twisted as a buzzing laughter suddenly emerged from within it. Viscous demonic chi surged out of his body and ultimately transformed into two devil-like figures by his side under countless astonished gazes. The two devil figures were tall and well-built, and one of them was a little slimmer. They were currently smiling as they stared at Lindong. However, those smiles were filled with endless killing intent. Let me introduce myself. I am Devil Prison's 8th-seat king. One of the tall devil-like figures faintly smiled and said, I seem to have seen you before, brat. You are that fellow who obtained the devouring master's inheritance, right? The other devil-like figure's eyes swept across Lindong as he smilingly said. His appearance was rather familiar. He was the 10th seat king that had appeared back then from within the shattered domain. To think that there were two seated kings hidden within this 7th seat king's body. Evidently, this was originally a secret move planned for the Chaos Master. Yet, it had now been forced out by Lindong. On the island, the cheering came to an abrupt halt as the bodies of many experts faintly trembled. The 7th seat king alone was already so difficult to deal with. Yet two Yimmos that were not inferior to him had appeared? How could they fight this? Lindong slowly wiped off the blood at the corner of his mouth. The expression in his eyes was very grave. These Yimmo were truly cunning. The situation was now really troublesome. Given his current strength, dealing with one 7th seat king was already the limit. If another two-seated kings appeared, it was really going to be. No matter what, if you plan on going to the Chaotic Tower, you will have to step over this young master's dead body. Lindong grinned. His grin was incomparably ferocious. He could only fight to the death in this situation. The three-seated kings released a mocking laugh. Without further ado, their bodies moved. They intended to attack together and behead this huge threat known as Lindong. However, just as they were about to strike, the entire area abruptly turned ice cold. The cold chi caused even the surging demonic chi to gradually freeze. Lindong also felt this cold chi. His expression immediately changed as he hastily cast his gaze downwards, only to find that the 10,000 feet large frost prison had suddenly crumbled. A lovely ice blue figure slowly walked out from within. Behind her, 3 ice statues flickered with a dazzling light. She stood on cold chi as she emotionlessly gazed at the 3-seated kings with her beautiful ice blue eyes. An icy voice spread in the sky. You do not have my permission to kill him. This video will end here.